Hello, Facebook land. How is everybody? Hey, it is 12:30. You know what that means? That means that you and I have an appointment. It is time to discuss it with Drake, yours truly. Welcome to episode number 119. And today's quick episode actually is, what do you need to know about closing costs? Closing costs. Those sound wicked. Anyways, before we get started, if you ever missed an episode, please just go on over to YouTube, type in, you know the drill, Drake's Real Estate TV, click subscribe, and you will never miss another episode. And please, if you stop by, say hello in the comments. I'd greatly appreciate it. So let's get started. When you're planning to buy a house with me, you don't just need upfront cash for a down payment for the transaction. It would be best to remember that you still have to pay closing costs. And closing costs are what you pay to a mortgage lender in exchange for the services related to your loan. So a big issue that many less experienced homebuyers face is that they don't know how much they'll have to pay in closing costs. Or perhaps they don't anticipate this expense at all. Okay, that's why working with someone that has lots of experience, yours truly, is probably best for you. Anyways, closing costs can also be described as processing fees that go to your lender in exchange for your loan. They can also cover your home's appraisal, sometimes title searches. The particular types of closing costs that you're responsible for actually depend, and they actually vary depending on where you live and actually what type of loan you're getting. So, and these will actually have to be paid toward the close of your actual transaction. So, yeah, we'll talk about that later. Call me. Anyways, how much are closing costs? That's a big question. Well, closing costs can be anywhere from, on the low end, maybe 2%, to the high end, about 6% of the price of your home. So if you actually get a mortgage for, let's say, I'm choking because the example I was given was like $200,000. Your closing costs are probably going to be somewhere between 6 and 12. Okay, closing costs are not inclusive of your down payment, so just remember that it's addition to. In some markets, you might actually be able to negotiate with the seller to pay some or all of your closing costs. However, in a hot seller's market, not so much. Okay, that could actually put you at a very much a disadvantaged place. So both buyers and sellers actually pay closing costs, but they pay different closing costs. And usually the buyer pays the majority of it. The seller does agree. If the seller does agree to cover some of your costs, that's actually considered a seller concession. Okay, if a seller agrees to this concession, they can only contribute up to a certain percentage of the mortgage value. Talk to your lender about that, depending on the loan type, the down payment, and the type of occupancy. So make sure that you speak to the lender if you're going to be asking for this, and talk to them in advance, okay? This is kind of funny, but in 2019, the average closing cost in the U.S. was about $57.49, including taxes. So anyways, let's talk about types of fees. Your loan estimate and closing disclosure should have an itemized breakdown of all of your closing costs that you're going to be responsible for. So some of the items you may see may be a loan application fee, and that's charged by a lender to process your application for a mortgage. In some states, there's actually attorney fees that cover the cost of the real estate attorney that prepares and reviews contracts and agreements. We don't do that here in California. Closing fees are also known as escrow fees, which are paid to the party handling the closing. FHA loans actually require an upfront mortgage premium. That's based on the base amount of the loan to be paid at closing, or it can actually be rolled into your mortgage as well. And if you buy a property that's part of a homeowners association, you may actually have to pay a transfer fee that covers the costs of switching the ownership. Here in California, that's generally a seller expense, though. A lender would typically require you to pay for your first year of homeowners insurance at closing. There's an origination fee that covers like administration costs of the lender to process your fee. The origination fee is usually about 1% of your loan. And if a lender doesn't charge the origination fee, they'll usually charge a higher interest rate. So there's always a give and take, right? And if you don't make a down payment, if you do make a down payment of less than 20%, the mortgage lender is also going to require you to have private mortgage insurance, otherwise known as, say it with me, PMI. Yes, not TMI, PMI. So you could have to make your first month's payment at PMI at closing. And there are ways to avoid this. There's a thing also called an 80-10-10 loan. So if you want information on that, get a hold of me. And of course, during closing, you're also going to pay any prorated property taxes that are due from the date that you close to the end of the year. So these aren't the only fees, but these are part of the closing costs. There's some of the major ones. So how can you possibly lower any of these closing costs? Well, there are some closing costs that you can't do much about. Taxes, right? But there are some things that you can do to lower some of them. One of the best ways to save on closing costs potentially is to shop around when you're choosing a mortgage company to work with. But remember, you get what you pay for in almost every instance, right? Choose a lender that offers the most competitive items and terms overall, because closing costs won't necessarily be the same across all lenders. And if you are looking for respectable lenders, I've got some of the best in the industry in my back pocket. Call me. Finally, you might also negotiate with the seller to have some of them maybe make a contribution, especially if you're in a buyer's market. So are you in a buyer's market where you're at? I know most places aren't, but it doesn't hurt to ask. But that's all I have for you today. I hope you found that information useful. Please come back and see me again next week. I want to give a shout out to Realty Times for all the information that they provided me, that I provided you today. And as always, please don't keep me a secret. Share this with everyone you know. And if there's a topic that you would like me to discuss in the future, just let me know and I'll get it on the calendar. I hope that you have a fantastic week. Be kind to one another. Don't forget to live, laugh, and most importantly, love. And until we see each other again next week, when the next move matters, contact Drake for Homes. Thanks, everyone. See you later.